to say such things as he says is actually out of order. Unless the Honorable Kibagendi substantiates, I think it is good manners to withdraw untruths. So I'll really ask whether get the data from TSC, bring it here, so that it shows us these are permanent and pensionable, and these are PMP. What he has said should be expunged from the record of the House. Thank you, and apologize.
Honorable Kibagendi, do you have confirmation from TSC that no teachers were in fact employed, but that they were interns? Yes or no? Do you have?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'm one of the youngest members of Parliament who is on research.
Honorable Kibagendi.
Yes, it is factual that 9,100 teachers were employed on permanent basis. The rest are interns. That is the truth.
Honorable Kibagendi,
yes.
If you make that allegation, you have the duty to substantiate.
So you should have. That is the truth, Madam Speaker.
No, I'm not asking for you to say the truth from yourself. You should have a document or
it is
from the
that
TSC
one,
site.
It is even in all sites, in all websites,
no,
even in
we don't talk about. We are talking about the official TSC. Do you have an official?
Madam Speaker, these are the facts. These are the facts.
We'll ask you to withdraw that, unless you can bring it back later if you have it.
I can bring it back later.
Okay, now withdraw.
Okay, I withdraw. Do I proceed? But Madam Speaker, while at it, when they talk about 60,000 teachers, we did not see them substantiating the claims, because even that is a claim. But let me proceed. The President did not address the issue of national cohesion and equitable distribution of national resources and job opportunities. We've had a committee here in Parliament demonstrate that jobs were created, a few jobs that were created at KRA were unfairly distributed amongst a few communities, which I thought the President, that's a national issue he should have addressed. The other thing is about the President being misinformed by those who give him data on the issue of the gentleman called Karisa from Coast Province, who has accessed 714 million from the Hustler Fund. That 714,000, who wanted to be given more access to be able to purchase a tuk-tuk. With 714,000, that gentleman can actually buy 2 of those tools of trade that he can use to generate income. What I can say again is that the government hasn't given clear indicators on job creation for youth. When the President talks about 50,000 jobs created in the construction industry, not all young Kenyans, not all youth are fundis. Most young Kenyans would hope to get job opportunities far beyond the construction industry. And the President ought to also have spoken about job losses in the steel industry, in the banking industry, and in the various industries that we've had job losses.
What's your point of order, Honorable Nyamai?
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. I have interrupted my colleague, the Honorable Kibagendi, again on matter of fact. When I look at the presidential speech on page 12 and 13, the President has specifically talked about different cadres of our youths, talking about the Juakali sector and going further to explain about engineers, architects, quantity surveyors, and all that. Is it in order, Honorable Speaker, for the Honorable Kibagendi to only go to the negatives and ignore all the positives? For example, what is on page 12 and page 13, as clearly stipulated. Honorable Speaker, is it in order?
Your point of order, Honorable Dawood.
Madam Speaker, Honorable Kibagendi has misrepresented the President's speech, where the President talked about Karisa accessing 714,000. It is in bits, and he said 714,000 he could have bought 2 tuk-tuks. But you do not access 714 in one go. So he said he should have been able to buy those two tuk-tuks. So I want him to correct those facts. It's on page 11, number 40.
Honorable Kibagendi, you want to make reference to the speech? You've looked at it?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. This is something that I've read severally. I listened to the President, and I know what I'm talking about. When I talk about Honorable Nyamai, what Honorable Nyamai has asked, it's the entire of what she's talking about is around the construction industry. And that is what I clearly stated. Job opportunities that young people in Kenya need are beyond the construction industry. When you talk about quantity surveyors, engineers, it is purely in the construction industry. And on the issue that Honorable Member from Meru has raised is that at this point, Garissa is able to access 714 million, not in total. It is at this point that is able to access that. So that should be able to guarantee the gentleman an opportunity to buy 2 motorbikes. For me to get to the... yes.
Honorable Kibagendi, if someone accesses an amount of money, it is for them to decide what they shall buy with it, not for you to tell them what is a better idea, because you're not in his business. So I think you're really over-speculating on that one. Huh? Yeah.
Thank
so
you,
just
Madam
proceed.
Speaker. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
And stick to factual things that are in the speech.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Yeah. Leave out your speculation.
The problem here, Madam Speaker, is we are accepting speculation from those that are supporting the President and not agreeing to the facts that I'm presenting. But let me proceed. We are saying the government is late on its promises and its bills. And it is time the government transformed its lofty visions into actual projects and services to the people of this republic that gave them an opportunity to serve. Thank you, Madam Speaker, despite all the interruptions. Thank you.
The Honorable Rachel Nyamai. You'll be next, Honorable Murugara.
Yes. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, and thank you very much for also indulging me earlier. First of all, I would like to congratulate the President and start by saying that it is not easy, Honorable Speaker, to lead a country. It is very difficult to lead. And it is easier to oppose, to say no to everything that is done. So I would like to take this opportunity as the member for Kitui South to congratulate the President for the first 1 year, from where he started, at the situation that he found the country, and where he has been able to push the country this far. Honorable Speaker, he was able, the President, His Excellency, the President was able to put down matters of this country from health to security to agriculture and to everything that pertains to this country in only 1 hour and 6 minutes, Honorable Speaker. And I would like to say that, to congratulate him for that. Madam Speaker, I will go to matters that touch on my constituency directly and start with the issue of employment of teachers. I would like to thank the President because I have seen teachers employed in my constituency, in primary schools, in secondary schools, in both Ikuda and Mutoma sub-counties, and also in the newly registered JSS schools. And I would like to just call for more, that when another opportunity comes, Honorable Speaker, be it teachers being permanently employed, be it teachers being on temporary employment, I am welcoming employment of all teachers in whichever way in my constituency, because my constituency and many other constituencies in rural areas are highly understaffed. Honorable Speaker, I will go also direct to the matter of reduction of cost of fertilizer. Madam Speaker, we are aware that fertilizer in this country about a year ago cost 6,500 shillings, and it has now been pushed down by the President to 2,500. Honorable Speaker, this is a reduction of 4,000 shillings. The other part which I would like to congratulate the President is because of working together and collaborating with counties. Because we used to have purchase of fertilizer in other times, but this time fertilizer is purchased, the President is able to work with the counties, and we are able to see distribution of fertilizer in our counties. And with the rains, the current rains, Honorable Speaker, we are looking forward to increased production of maize, especially in Kitui County, we look forward to increased production of maize. Honorable Speaker, we have also seen reduction of the cost of unga from 250 per packet, which was impossible. Now, Madam Speaker, this has gone to an average of about 150, and we cannot take this for granted. During the time that we were campaigning, Madam Speaker, it was 250, and now the price has gone to 150. I believe that it will go lower. What we can ask for is further reduction of cost of goods that are used within the households, and we'd like to ask the President to also look at this. Honorable Speaker, I would like to say that as a member of Parliament and as a member of Kitui South and also a member of various committees in this House, I would like to thank the President for giving us a product from his travels abroad. Madam Speaker, there is no way the President can make multilateral and bilateral agreements when he is seated here. We have seen these agreements that have been made, and we are looking forward to seeing possibilities of more business in this country within our business women and men who have really been looking forward to these agreements being done, agreements on taxation and others. Honorable Speaker, I would also like to say that another product of travel is that there is no way the President can sit down and not engage IMF, DFID, ADB. It is by these travels that the President has been able to engage, come with agreements that are going to be useful for this country, signed loans that are going to be useful so that we can have development. As I finish, Madam Speaker, I would like to say that the housing sector is going to give us various houses, social housing, affordable housing, and also the market rate housing. It is also going to give jobs to our children, those who are in the Juakali sector, and also our highly educated young people who are engineers and all the other high cadre, those who have done very high-level degrees. So it is taking care of Juakali, and it's also taking care of those who are highly educated. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, for the opportunity.
The Honorable Sir George Murugara, member for Tharaka.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, last Thursday we had the State of the Nation address by His Excellency the President, and we are required to debate this particular speech for the next 3 days. Madam Speaker, I know many people will say we are giving His Excellency the President accolades where they are not due, but I got to start by saying, number one, the speech was given in a timely space of time because Kenyans are expectant. They want to hear what this government has done for the last 1 year. And it is not just the government. We as members of Parliament are also being called to book, to tell constituents what we have done the last 1 year. His Excellency the President gave a statesmanship address, composed and allayed the expectations of Kenyans on negativity and gave us hope. He spoke on a wide range of issues, including cost of living, where he confirmed that the only way we can reduce cost of living is by subsidizing production. And he has given emphasis on fertilizer and seeds for planting. He also spoke on the evidence the country has, which debts are actually increasing without borrowing because our shilling is losing value against the international currency, including the dollar. We have to repay these debts, otherwise if we default, everybody will actually rank Kenya as a failed state. He spoke on petroleum products, whose prices should be coming down, and we expect this to happen, in spite of the fact that the government has no control on the prices at international level. As we move along, we are expectant that the prices of petroleum products will be coming down. It's important also to say he was a caring and listening president, because as he gave his speech, we had just seen the legal notices that had come along from the Minister for Interior, my constituent Professor Kithure Kindiki. and Kenyans were up in arms. There was a hue and cry regarding the cost of services to Kenyans. We are happy to see that the government has listened to this and has actually now published reductions, recommended reductions, and these are to be subjected to public participation. This is what a listening and caring government should actually be doing. There was a paragraph or two on employment, which is very important. And employment in the country, as enunciated by the president, cannot come in any other way save as through investments. This is why the president has to visit foreign countries so that he's able to attract investment for our country and to ensure that the youth who are languishing in unemployment are able to secure employment. It is important also to talk about the teachers, whom he clearly mentioned that we have employed over 56,000 teachers. Whether these are interns, they are permanent and pensionable, these are young trained teachers who are now going to classrooms to teach. Hope for the interns is that as soon as they complete their term of internship, they are actually able to secure jobs. And these jobs will be permanent and pensionable. The president mentioned about housing, and we have all seen the edifices that are coming up across the country. Beautiful houses that are to be sold to Kenyans so that we can move towards modern living. Very important. The president mentioned about the economic stimulus and empowerment fund. This is called the Hustler Fund. It is doing wonders in the country. People are borrowing, people are repaying, and the fund is revolving as required. Us as members of parliament would be to encourage Kenyans to borrow this money, make use of it, make prudent use of it, and repay so that others are able to benefit. You actually add about health. And here, we don't have to go very high. Let's talk about the CHVPs, the community health promoters. Extremely important. This is a milestone in the way we are doing things, because we need health at the basic grassroots level, where this CHP is able to attend to minor ailments which are afflicting our people at the local level. We add a paragraph on foreign relations, very important, because we live in a global community where we must relate well with other countries in the universe. And we have heard Kenyans, some of them complain that the president has made too many trips abroad. We must make friends on the globe. We must also attract other countries to come and invest in our country. This way, we will be able to grow our economy, our jobs will be much better as they are, and therefore, I believe it is welcome. I submit it's welcome for the president to be visiting these countries. A little bit off the line is the issue of Haiti, where our police officers are supposed to go and try to bring that country to order. There has been debate on this from all quarters, from all levels, and what comes out is clear that Kenya has not volunteered itself. It is the international community that has asked us to actually send our police officers to Haiti so that they are able to help that country bring law and order. And our police officers are more than willing to go there. We are not incurring any expenses. We are training them, and we have done it before. We have had our police officers go to other countries. They have actually provided the required peace. We have had our forces go to other countries, and they have done a fantastic job, including Africa, Liberia, Sierra Leone, everywhere else, Europe. We were in Bosnia, we were in Herzegovina, and now as we speak, we are back in Africa, Somalia, and DRC Congo. I cannot finish my speech without talking about the expectations of Kenyans on our government. And we cannot say more than we have said, that every Kenyan is expectant. And the only message we have for the country is let us be patient. Let us repay the debts. Let's see money growing so that we are able to move to development. My constituency, Tharaka, is equally expectant. And it's important to point out that being a marginalized area in the eastern region, we have high expectations. The roads are not good. We are experiencing El Nino. The blame is on the government. The blame is on me as their member of parliament that the government is not going down to work on those roads. We really have to inform the government. As soon as the rains subside, let us move down to the entire country, fix our road network so that our citizens can enjoy communication. Electricity supply is short in Tharaka, is short everywhere else in the country. We have to move in and improve connection to the national grid. Tharaka topping this. Water, like now we should be harvesting. There are lots of water that is all draining into the Indian Ocean. In another 1 year, we shall be crying when drought comes. This is the high time we put into place means and ways of harvesting water. Water that will be used in northeastern Kenya, water that will be used in my region, in the constituency of Tharaka, and water that will be used everywhere else it is needed. For my constituency, I call upon the government for affirmative action in matters development. Tharaka is marginalized, Tharaka is arid and semi-arid, and therefore requires to be actually considered in a totally different perspective. With those remarks, I do actually congratulate the president. This speech was balanced. This speech tried to touch on all spheres of life in the country. And what we need to say is, let us wait with the hope we were given by His Excellency, the President. I support.
Thank you very much. The Honorable Andrew Okuome, member for Karachonyo.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me an opportunity to put my word on a presidential address to the nation. Madam Speaker, I do know and I acknowledge the fact that Kenyans are a proud people. They want to see the best for this nation. They are crying out for good life. And when the president was giving his speech, in my mind I was analyzing and seeing the benefits and advantages we were going to get from the president's speech. I had in mind what Kenyans are facing as we move along today and relate that with the speech I expected the president to make. Madam Speaker, the key issue Kenyans are talking about, and which is extremely important, is the cost of living. If you do not address this adequately, the value of your speech, however good it may be, goes down. It is my opinion, Madam Speaker, that the President did not fully meet the expectation of the Kenyan population on the cost of living. People are suffering. I don't need to elaborate on this. Although it said the cost of maize has gone down, if it has, Madam Speaker, I want to say that this is not on ground. At least if I check what's happening in my own area or the region I come from, the cost of living in terms of maize is still as high as it was earlier after we had passed the budget 23-24. I therefore expected not just some good wishes and intentions. I expected the president to tell us strong methods he has taken to reduce the price, Madam Speaker. I know this is caused very much with the cost of fuel. Madam Speaker, the President avoided to talk on this. And yet it is fuel which is igniting this suffering to the Kenyan population. Yes, the President has said, and it is the policy of the government, that they cannot subsidize consumption. They want to subsidize production. Yes, that might look very good. But using this wholesale is not addressing the Kenyans' interest. Have in mind the same fuel I'm talking about. It is a very, very essential, commodity the Kenyan need. In fact, here is where the President should come up with a full control so that people don't suffer. Because once this goes out of the way, the life goes out of the way as well. Before, in the last regime, they subsidized petrol. And I was told if you do this, you are not going to make Kenya competitive. Yet, at that time, when subsidy was being given for petrol, and Kenyan shillings was also supported, we remained competitive a lot more than we are today. If somebody wants to find for me why I'm saying that, Uganda, our neighbor here who has been with us all along the road, have left us. They are now importing their own fuel direct. And the price they are paying is now lower. Why are we pricing ourselves out of the world market by weakening the Kenya shillings? Kenya shillings should be supported by the government and not let.
The Honorable Gladys Boss, member for Uasin Gishu.
Well, thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to speak on this very important matter. A matter that is clearly provided for in Article 132 of our Constitution, that requires the President to report through a State of the Nation address or an address to the nation all measures taken and the progress achieved in the realization of national values. These particular measures in the report and the progress in the report are required by the same Article 132 to be gazetted in the official Kenya Gazette. So for those such as Honorable Kibagendi, who are alluding to the fact that the facts in the report are not accurate, must understand that this is a legal document. It is a gazette notice, which means should you have any challenge about it, you can legally challenge the publication in the gazette and that line, and then request for an order that an addendum or a corrigenda be put in the official Kenya Gazette. It cannot be by simply raising superfluous statements here in the House. It must be factual. So I dare those to do that. Honorable Speaker, as I rise to lend my voice to this debate, I wish to use this opportunity to congratulate the head of state for this exemplary speech. The head of state was honest of the fact that he took over a government that was having fiscal challenges, that he took over a government that was having a sinking economy, that he took over a government that was wrought with unemployment, that he took over a government that we had challenges in our education sector. He took over a government that we had challenges in our health sector. He was honest about it. He did not say that it's a rosy picture. He also indicated, and we know for a fact, that there were two choices. Either the head of state buries his head in the sand, decides to be a popular leader, and continue subsidies, subsidizing petroleum, subsidize food, so that everyone can clap and cheer on. But that was not going to be sustainable. Eventually, the country would have sunk. There was the other choice which he has taken, to undertake serious interventions and focus on certain programs that may be painful in the short run, but will pay off in the long run with a complete economic transformation of this country. Honorable Speaker, what is positive about the report is that it addresses the challenges that Kenyans had. Kenyans have had challenges with education, both the funding to education and their own ability to pay. Kenyans have had a challenge with affordable credit. Kenyans have had a challenge with affordable housing and housing in general. Kenyans have had a challenge with health care. Kenyans have had a challenge with the agriculture sector, which is the backbone of our economy. Kenyans have had a challenge with services and many other challenges. In setting out the measures taken, the President has given us the interventions that have been undertaken by government, which he leads, on the education sector. One is the shortage of teachers by the employment of 56,000 plus or thereabouts teachers, the retraining of 8,200 teachers, and then on the university education, we all know that our universities were going bankrupt.
Please give her 3 more minutes. You had, please give her the mic.
Okay, thank you for that. And with that, we knew that our universities had debts. And now, universities are being funded because the funding methodology is student-centered. So the funding follows the student, not funding even when you don't have students. Also, the establishment of COOPs, which has ensured that we have a central admission system that is able to ensure that students are able to get full access to scholarships to study. Also, access to education by having the Open University being chartered. Affordable credit has been resolved by establishment of the Hustler Fund and also by bearing pressure to the various fintechs who have since reduced the interest rates. On affordable housing, which not only creates employment, but also it ensures that we realize Article 43 of our Constitution that says every Kenyan has a right to housing that has sanitation and is affordable. The revolution of NHIF to ensure universal health care by establishment of the Social Insurance Fund, the Facilities Fund, and the Digital Fund will go a long way in ensuring that every Kenyan has access to health care. And the establishment of the Kenya Health Human Resources Advisory Council, it will help the inequality that exists in the human resources of the health sector. Agriculture has been revamped through the sugar, the rescuing of the sugar companies, there's the coffee, the cherry coffee fund, coolers being put there and dryers for farmers, and also the fertilizer subsidy. Improvement of services through digitization to wananchi is also welcome. And lastly, fiscal policy interventions. One, ensuring that we normalize our relations with the International Monetary Fund. And lastly, the Eurobond, that for the first time we have paid a quarter of the amount installment, and that the promise that we shall retire the Eurobond by June of next year. Thank you for the opportunity, Honorable Speaker.
Honorable members, from my left, number 1 to 12 are on the left side. So I'll purposively go and pick a few members from my left. Majority of those who have interest, who have indicated interest from number 1, almost from number 1 to 12 are on my left. So honorable members, I will go to the member, Honorable Parasina Sakimba, member for Kajiado South. Is he in the house? All right.
Okay, thank you, Madam Speaker. I'll also stand to make some comments on the President's address to the nation, when the President came here and addressed the nation. And on that one, I would like to make some few comments. One, I was impressed on the issue of Inspector General making him an accounting officer, and thus achieving making the Police Service Commission to be independent. Number 2,
What is out of order, honorable member for Garissa?
Madam Speaker,
Is that the honorable member for Garissa?
Yes, honorable member for Garissa, Deko Baro.
Garissa Township.
Correct. Madam Speaker, while I respect your ruling, that you will be giving some members from the other side who have just come into the chambers and were here since 9:30, it will be unfair. So consider consider, Madam Speaker, that some of us have been here since 9:30 waiting for the same chance. Thank you.
Well, honorable member for Garissa, you are not out of order. You are in order, and I will tell you that I'm going to consider that. I was just sensitive to the fact that all the interventions that I'm seeing are on my right, but I'll endeavor to do what I have said. So I'll stick to what I have said, but I'll take into consideration what you have said. Please proceed. The member who was on, that was the Honorable Parasina Sakimba, member for Kajiado. Please proceed.
Let me produce, Madam Speaker. Thank you so much. Like I was saying, I support and I support the presidential address. One of the issues that I got to my attention is making the Inspector General of Police and Accounting Officer, making that institution fully independent. Number 2, the repayment plan of paying the debts to a tune of 500 billion. So much welcome. And that is my plea that once that one is being executed, there are areas still which are under disadvantage. For example, in Kajiado South, whereby because of the heavy rain now, we are seeing a lot of damages to our roads, which make them impassable, and our people able to transport their food and produce. Madam Speaker, we are so much happy on the creation of 400 markets across the country. That one is going to enable our people to be able to transact well. We understand some of them are doing the kibandas, and is making them not able to take advantage of the market because of challenges of weather. The other issue is about the ICT hub centers that the President was talking about them. This was going to make our country more digital and encourage our youth to take advantage of the issue of ICT, because the world is changing towards that area. The other issue is about the recruitment process of men and women in the uniform in the security sector. He said that 75% will be given to the people who are, or the recruits from NYS. That one is going to encourage our youth to participate in the program of NYS. Sometimes they say that there's nothing they gain from there apart from them going through small training. The issue is also the other advantage of that program, it is going to discourage a lot of corruption. Sometimes during the recruitment process, people are supposed to give money, people are supposed to do this, and people are given jobs on knowing who you know, and even selection being done in Nairobi. So by the time you're going to give NYS, we are going to pick the people who are so much interested in that job. The teachers, the issue of teachers is also very welcome. We are seeing this one bringing a lot of impact in our constituencies, and we also need to say if more chances are going to be available, this is very much welcome. Madam Speaker, we need to just to comment on the issue of the housing project. This issue of making that sure available, any person is given an opportunity to get a house is a good idea. But some of us who are coming from disadvantaged areas or far from the mainstream, main cities like Mombasa or Nairobi or Nakuru, like in Kajiado, South, we need to see how, by when are we going to be reached in the program of housing, because that is also going to help our people, as we are going to see that. The issue of community health workers getting money, the 50-50 arrangement, that the county government gives 50%, something like 50%, and national government gives 50%. I can assure that those people are so much happy, and those are the programs that we need to encourage, and we are so happy. I will not take much time, because I see many members have interest. I support the presidential address to the nation. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Mary Maingi, member from where?
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to comment on this very important presidential speech. Madam Speaker, during economic downturns, large corporations often lay off employees to cut down on costs and to maintain profitability. Small-scale businesses play a critical role in promoting economic resilience and stimulating economic growth. The President, in his address, mentioned about the exemplary performance of the Hustler Fund with a disbursement of 36.6 billion, 2.3 billion in savings, 7.5 million of repeat borrowers, and an overall repayment rate of up to 73%. I would also like to observe that the President, in his speech, mentioned about the passing into law of the Universal Healthcare Bill. That constitutes of the Primary Healthcare Act, the new Social Health Insurance Act, the Digital Health Act, the Facility Improvement Financing Act, to provide healthcare to all Kenyans. This, Madam Speaker, is going to see all Kenyans access quality healthcare in our health facilities. Majority of our Kenyans cannot even afford to get themselves to a health facility because they can't even afford fare. When we talk of promotive, preventive healthcare, we are going to see community healthcare workers go to people's doorstep and attend to people with minor ailments. And that is going to result into a very healthy workforce, because people who are not healthy cannot go to work. Madam Speaker, the President also mentioned about the employment of 56,750 teachers. This is going to reduce the deficit in our teaching staff, and as a result, we are going to have an improved teacher-student contact. Overall, we are going to have an improved quality of education in our learning institutions. Madam Speaker, allow me to congratulate the President in his speech, which was full of inspiration and hope for all Kenyans. And with that, Madam Speaker, I support.
Thank you very much. The Honorable Aden Mohamed, member for Wajir East.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for affording me this opportunity. I stand to support the speech of His Excellency the President. There were so many good things in that speech: digital transformation, more teachers for our schools, universal health care, and all that. But Madam Speaker, and fertilizer for agriculture and for coffee and things like that. But Madam Speaker, I come from a region called Northern Kenya, a region that has been marginalized for so many years. Madam Speaker, I am cognizant of the fact that there was sessional paper number 10 of 1965, which has prioritized development along the railway line. A lot of the things that were in the President's speech look to be a duplicate of that sessional paper. Madam Speaker, 3/4 of this nation is arid and semi-arid, and the mainstay of that 3/4 of this nation is livestock. I have not heard any mention of the livestock industry in the President's speech. I find that is something that was omitted and something that should be of importance to this nation. Madam Speaker, our President is very strong on climate change. Actually, he is a global ambassador and champion on matters climate change. Our country is synonymous with our President's very eloquent elucidation of the vagaries of climate change. Unfortunately, one of the big manifestations of climate change in our country right now is the El Nino phenomena. Again, I have not heard or seen any mention of the El Nino phenomena that is ravaging our country in the President's speech. I implore the President and his team also to take these phenomena very seriously. Parts of my constituency and major parts of northern Kenya are now under floods. Over 50 people have lost, unfortunately, have lost their life because of flood. Madam Speaker, our nation is paying about 1.871 trillion in debt this year. The biggest burden this country is facing is the debt burden. While I applaud the efforts His Excellency is making in reducing our debt burden and paying off at least a quarter of the Eurobond in advance before its maturity date of 30th June of this year, of next year, I have not seen a correspondent reduction in our appetite for expenditure. While we are paying for every 100 shilling we collect, we are paying 81 shillings to service our debt. We are still, as a country, gobbling up expenditure for things that are not necessary. I also would like to see that a reduction in our expenditure so that we can at least maintain our debts at sustainable levels. Madam Speaker, other than those few remarks, I find that the presidential speech was full of things that was good for this country, and I support the speech. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you very much. The Honorable Rahim Dawood, member for North Imenti.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. First of all, I want to congratulate His Excellency the President on his State of the Nation speech. Madam Speaker, the first thing when President was sworn in, he signed in 6 judges of the Court of Appeal who were pending prior in the other administration, as well as increasing the judiciary fund. He increased it by 3 billion shillings, Madam Speaker. And the judiciary under my sister CJ Martha Koome has been doing exemplary well. Madam Speaker, the second thing His Excellency did, he made the IG, my brother again, IG Inspector Japhet Koome, as the accounting officer of the National Police Service as an independent away from Interior so that they can run their affairs properly. Madam Speaker, we have seen the expansion of the agriculture because of interventions which were done, reducing the fertilizer cost from 6,000 to 2,500, which have now resulted in an extra 18 million bags and more than 200,000 acres under maize production, Madam Speaker. That has even gone further to reduce the price of unga from 250, the highs of 250, to between 145 and 165, Madam Speaker. And I am really surprised, Madam Speaker, the opposition or the minority side have not acknowledged the reduction in prices of unga, which has been from the intervention of His Excellency the President. Madam Speaker, we have the affordable housing, and there are over 746,795 affordable houses in the pipeline, where these houses will create jobs for the Juakali sector. Not just create jobs, it will give a decent dwelling to the ones downtrodden, and the purchase is the ones who will be buying it. They will be buying it at the social housing will be at 3% interest, the affordable housing at 6% interest, and the market rates are 9%. So, Madam Speaker, it goes to show how much the President has thought about this affordable housing, because ordinarily, anybody who goes to a bank will not get less than 12% interest on loans. Madam Speaker, we talk about universal health care, and I thank this House for passing the 4 health bills. And Madam Speaker, the government, together with the county governments, has looked forward at the community health promoters. We will be employing over 100,000 community health promoters who will nip in the bud the diseases. They will go to each and every village. Instead of somebody having to come long distances to hospitals, they will be getting maybe interventions so that it does not go very far, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the government of His Excellency the President has invested heavily in the ICT sector, and there we are going to be having 1,450 digital hubs and over 25,000 free Wi-Fi hotspots. Madam Speaker, in my constituency, we have got already between 4 and 5 hotspots, free hotspots, which are assisting our market people and our residents in doing digital business. Madam Speaker, the government has got a very ambitious 100,000 kilometer fiber optic cables. Madam Speaker, the pensions we have is at the moment it's at 1.4 billion, but after coming into effect of the NSSF enhancements, we are at 6.5. Madam Speaker, the other thing is the markets and aggregation centers, which this government has brought forward. In my constituency, I've got 1 or 2 market aggregation centers, and I believe that is the way to go, and we thank His Excellency the President. Even in the digital, we've got more than 13,000 services which are now on e-citizen platform. So, Madam Speaker, when we are being told that there's nothing which this government...
The Honorable Richard Yegon, member for Bomet East.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I also rise to contribute on this State of the Nation address by the President. Madam Speaker, I want to support the President in his speech, and I would like to put it this way. There is when he took over the office, there was a lot of challenges which this administration faced. And we are still trying to, he's still trying to do his best. First of all, there was the issue of the COVID-19, which had ravaged the whole nation, including globally. And this contributed to immensely to making the country a net importer of food. And I would like to say that this also took a lot of the revenues from the country. There is another issue also where the president talked about, whereby when he took over, he made the Inspector General of Police to be the accounting officer for the police, whereby thus making the police force financial autonomy. The cost of living being a reality, it has gone very high. This is not something which it is only this great nation of Kenya. It is also affecting all other countries. We have traveled to other countries. They're still talking about the same thing. The issue where the president also subsidized the fertilizer has given us an inch of trying to improve on these hard economic times. The cost of the 90 kgs of maize has come down from 6,500 to 4,000, 3,500 to 4,000 in my area. Thus, beginning a reality the issue of subsidizing production. Madam Speaker, the issue of distribution of these fertilizers, whereby the subsidy which was done for 5.5 billion bags of fertilizers, the president talked about further devolving these distribution units further to the local level, which is also going to give us, help our farmers in getting all these. The coolers also have been talked about by the president, which are going to be supplied to the farmers in all our areas, including my constituency, whereby areas have been, and there are some areas which have been pointed out where these cooling plants are going to be installed. The UHC, this is the universal health care also the president talked about, whereby it's going to make all our people to access health facilities in all our hospitals. This UAC is going to allow all our people not to venture into the issues of making harambes in order to access the health facilities, Madam Speaker. There is another issue of the pending bills. The president talked about clearing the pending bills before we start the new ones. The issues of infrastructure, whereby we are seeing it going on now. This is a reality where the president talks. I like the president talking about all these things, and it is making it now a reality because he is facing the bulls by the horns. You're holding the bull by the horns. And again, lastly, Madam Speaker, I want to say, before some people pointing hands at the president, I would like to ask also some of our honorable members who are very critical to this government to tell us what they have really done in their constituencies before bringing these issues of trying to point the fingers in this administration. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
Thank you very much. Honorable members, this morning, seated in the public gallery, we have students from Riara International School, from Dagoretti constituency, Nairobi County. You are welcome to the National Assembly. The next opportunity, honorable members, will go to the member, the Honorable Ochanda. The Honorable Gideon Ochanda, member for Bondo.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the President was carrying out a very critical national duty last week in this House. And it needs to be understood that it was a serious national duty. I only want to do 2-3 comments. And these comments, I ought to have played them when the majority leadership were here. Number one is the whole issue of the environment of the statements that we do. The second one is How do we package public information? And lastly, the support, the big support, huge support that's going to the counties from this financial year onwards. Madam Speaker, the environment which we operate in sometimes makes some of the statements that are done publicly not to be properly understood by the citizenry. We have a citizenry that is immediate. They want immediate results. They want results today. You talk about a fertilizer. They want that fertilizer in the farm today. They want the maize today. They want the products today. So this is one thing that when we package public information, particularly the segments of government that does this, needs to be very, very, very clear that we are talking about, or we are communicating to a public that needs results now. So if we have things that are long-term, we have to package them in a manner that they don't appear like they are coming up tomorrow, yet they are long-term. And that is exactly where some of the information that is given out doesn't reach out very well. Who packages this information? This is something that I want to believe that the government needs to take up. How we package public information. A lot of public information are getting out when it is still very crude. And it becomes too difficult to correct them with the time. And this is exactly where we have, like I mentioned, segments of the government that are also not very sensitive. We are at a situation in this country that nobody should be talking about adding any levies, any taxes, or anything on the citizenry. And yet, you have segments of the government who is fully aware of this, but they are so insensitive to an extent that they still come up with these proposals and ideas that you have to raise the monies for doing IDs, you have to raise monies for marriages, and we are in an environment where some of these things are taken literally like that, and the social media moves too quickly and very fast ahead of most of the things that we do. And they exaggerate these things, and it's the exaggerated bits that the public gets to understand. It's the exaggerated bits that get to the public, get to the citizenry. So we really need to think that those segments of the government that instead of brewing up, instead of cooking things properly, and making sure that at the end, the product is ready to be eaten by the public, don't need to release information too quickly that's confusing the public. That's one thing that I wanted to bring, Madam Speaker, that is critical. The other bit that I wanted to bring, Madam Speaker, is the support that we are extending to the counties. It is indicated in the speech. It is indicated in the budget. It is indicated in the things that we have done here. But we need to look at these things again because they are going to be a problem in future. We are talking about public health promoters. The national government is committing 2,500 to each one of them, and it's supposed to be matched by a county government. What if a county government fails to match that? And when is this thing going to be happening? We are talking about industrial parks. The county governments are supposed to match 250 million. What if they fail to do it? We are talking about the markets. The national government is going to support a number of markets. For example, in my county, there are like 5 markets that the national government is going to place money. But the markets are supposed to be done or are supposed to be left with the county government. How will they do it? So I think there are things that the government really needs to start looking at afresh. Otherwise, it's going to be a problem to this country later on. That the national government will pay, there will be no matching money from the side of the county government. And in the end, the national government is going to be blamed. You know, the county government has people. They are closer to the people. When you release your 2,500 and they fail, they'll say that it is yours that failed. And they'll get to the communities much more quickly than the national government. I think the government needs to look at this very, very seriously and afresh. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The Honorable Hilary Kosgei, member for Kipkelion West.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I also rise to add my voice to the President's speech. And I want to begin, Madam Speaker, by saying that during the Great Depression of the 1930s, the American people were faced by serious economic times. And the then President, Franklin Roosevelt, came out with a speech to calm an anxious nation, Madam Speaker. And he said that our values have shrunken to fantastic levels, our taxes have fallen, our taxes have risen, our ability to pay has fallen. Government finds itself with serious curtailment of income, and the means of exchange is frozen in all fronts and areas of trade. And he finally told them, Madam Speaker, that the American people had nothing to fear but fear itself. And what did the American public respond to the speech of their president, Madam Speaker? They realized the enormous task that the president had and decided to rally to a man to the efforts of the president to remove America out of the Great Depression. Madam Speaker, the situation in this country is not unique. Madam Speaker, Kenyans must be reminded that the Kenya Kwanza administration took over government when the economy was in ICU. And Madam Speaker, the president, being the surgeon that he is, started work immediately to help to remove the economy out of the ICU all the way to the HDU, and is now stabilizing it in the wards, Madam Speaker. And he started, Madam Speaker, by suspending our free and excess spending by cutting it by 300, the first supplementary by 300 billion. He also started by moving the country away from subsidizing consumption towards subsidizing production. And that is where you see successes, Madam Speaker, in the areas of agriculture, where we subsidized fertilizer to 2,500 shillings, and the farmers of Kenya went to their farms and produced for this country 200,000 more bags than the previous years, Madam Speaker. Secondly, Madam Speaker, the president moved to a more important area, Madam Speaker, by now using this speech to tell the Kenyan people the economic situation as it is now and the measures that he is adopting, Madam Speaker, to make sure that the patient, which is the economy, is removed from the ward and released. And therefore, Madam Speaker, as we contribute to this president's speech, I am calling on the people of Kenya to trust their president, to remove them out of this economic hardship, Madam Speaker. And these economic hardships were put on us by the excess spending by the previous government. And it is all over, Madam Speaker. You see social media reports the other day when the roofs of JKIA are leaking. The current Minister for Infrastructure and Transport, Mr. Kipchumba Murkomen, is blamed instead of blaming the tenderpreneurs who had captured the previous regime, who implemented that project, Madam Speaker. And therefore, Madam Speaker, we need to be candid and to tell the people that the mess that was created by the previous regime is what the president is cleaning. And Madam Speaker, it is what is going to form the foundation for progress for the Republic of Kenya. And I want to assure the people of Kenya, this country shall rise and it shall be good. So, Madam Speaker, what are the areas the president touched on? Madam Speaker, we have passed the four bills, the 4 healthcare bills. That is going to transform healthcare and remove cartels who are used to reaping Kenyan money from the NHIF scheme, and to enable the people of Kenya to get free medication going forward, funded by their government and the taxes of the people of Kenya. Number 2, Madam Speaker.
1 minute for him. 1 minute. Please conclude.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The second one is the reforms in the coffee sector, the dairy sector, and the sugar sector, Madam Speaker, where we have waived over 117 billion non-performing loans to the farmers of Kenya and send a warning to the cartels that were used to occupying that space, that it is time for them to get out of the space and the Kenyan farmer to benefit from the activities and of their present government, Madam Speaker. So, Madam Speaker, on the NYS, the president promised that going forward, we will take 40,000 cohorts from every village, which will be used as a basis for recruitment to the forces to avoid situations where Kenyans are forced to pay money to get opportunities for recruitment in the disciplined forces, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the speech was good, and it has a lot of things that time cannot allow. Let me stop there and beg to support, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Lillian Sioi, member for Trans Nzoia County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me this chance to also contribute on the speech from the Excellency President last week. Madam Speaker, I want to appreciate the President on the fertilizer, being a farmer and being a member of Parliament from Trans Nzoia County, a county that is a food basket for this country, Madam Speaker. On the issue of fertilizer, the President thought it well that it is better to subsidize the fertilizer and not subsidize the prices of unga, Madam Speaker. The President has killed 2 birds using 1 stone, Madam Speaker. This is because the cost of unga has come down after the fertilizer was subsidized. And right now, people who are on the streets demonstrating on the unga issue, I am sure that they are very comfortable because the prices of unga has gone down, Madam Speaker. Secondly, I also want to speak on the issue of health, because this is a basic need: food, health, education, and shelter. And on the 4 issues, Madam Speaker, the President touched each of them one by one, of which he has already worked on it, Madam Speaker. On the health issue, Madam Speaker, the President thought it wise coming up with the primary health care, of which it is better to prevent. When we have the measures to prevent diseases in this country, Madam Speaker, we will cut down on the cost of expenses when it comes to medication, Madam Speaker. So I want to say that the President has done, and we have to applaud what he has already done, Madam Speaker. I know criticism has to be there because it is normal, but the criticism that we are putting across is not worth it, Madam Speaker. I'm saying this because when this government took over, already the prices of unga was high. When this government took over, already the prices of fuel was up, Madam Speaker. And as people are already pushing our President to subsidize the prices of fuel, it is not possible, because when we put subsidies on fuel, we will be killing other ministries, Madam Speaker. This is not in the mandate of the President. He has tried his best, and he's working out to ensure that the basic needs that this country or our Kenyans need are already being worked on, Madam Speaker. I also want to urge members of Parliament, especially members of Parliament from opposition, it is good to speak the truth. At times, our electors are depending on us to tell them the truth, to lead them and explain to them what is happening in this country. So when we stand here and lie that is the President who is increasing the prices of fuel, it will be very wrong, and we are misleading the electorate, Madam Speaker. So I want to applaud the speech from the President, and I want to congratulate him for what he's doing. I know when you are coming into a new house, at times it's very difficult to work out things fast as people expect. Sometimes when we are getting into relationships, when we are courting, we think that it will be a bed of roses as usual. Then when you get there, you come to realize that it is more difficult. So when the President came in, he thought that we are not in ICU as it is at the moment. He realized later that things are worse than what he expected. And he's really trying his best to ensure that he brings up the economy of this country. And we want to pray for him. And as members of Parliament, we also want to help him to ensure that he achieves the agendas that he promised this country. And just to conclude on something, on issues to do with fertilizer, there is one issue, a problem that has been caused by employees from the cereals board. We have cartels there who are also buying fertilizers that are subsidized and selling to the farmers, the rightful farmers of this country. So I would urge that the Ministry of Health, Ministry of Agriculture, checks on this so that we ensure that real farmers get fertilizers at a subsidized price. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Deco Balo, member for Garissa Township.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise to support the speech by the President and appreciate.
Order, Honorable member for Garissa. I would like to encourage the member for the Honorable Wario. I would like to encourage you to sit if your intention was to speak, because you are not far. Thank you. You may proceed, Honorable member.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise to support the report and the speech by the President and appreciate for his wisdom and charisma in representing his report. Madam Speaker, if you read the speech of the President and the report of the President, there is a connection between his speech of this year, the speech of last year, and the manifesto of the Kenya Kwanza government. While he was campaigning, the President made promises and pledges to this country, and it is a report he's giving us that after 1 year of my presidency, and he has laid that foundation in the first year, in his first speech, that this is the report of I'm giving you as a country, the hope that you should be looking forward to as a country. Madam Speaker, as a leader of a country like Kenya, you need to make, sometimes you are forced to make very hard decisions, very painful decisions, but for the betterment for tomorrow. So what the President gave us was a report from last year, since he started this. What he had pledged and promised Kenyans required some issues, required legislation and policy changes. And that's what we have worked on as a country, or as a parliament, or as a government in the last 1 year. For example, Madam Speaker, the President promised and pledged to this country on a number of issues like education. Now we have a new model of funding for our university education, where almost 45,000 Kenyan students are going to benefit for almost 80% fees reduction. We have 56,000 new teachers who are recruited to cover the gap that was missing over the years. There is JSS funding, both infrastructure and capitation. Madam Speaker, if you look and sum all that in the education sector, it means that there is going to be a burden removed from the people of Kenya, the parents of Kenya, who are not able to pay for their students for their education. Madam Speaker, if I read the report on food production, the subsidy, the President is giving us a report that the subsidy, the production subsidy he has given this country, has now, the result has now been seen. That the unga has reduced from 265 per 2 kg pack to 170 per 2 kg pack. That means that it has worked. The program he has put in place has worked. The other issue is that the sunflower production. This country, the second highest importation after petroleum is edible oil. Now that they are giving out subsidized sunflower seeds to encourage farmers to grow, it means that in the next 1 year, in the next 1 year speech of the President, in the next address or the next report, we will have information on that subsidy on sunflower production. There is also a value addition to this agricultural production, in that he had promised us, and we signed with him a charter during the campaigns, that they will be putting up industrial parks in every county. And I want to report that for my county, we have already started that project, and that that will cover post-harvest losses for our farmers. Madam Speaker, the other aspect that the President also talked about was employment, housing, affordable housing, for social housing, market housing programs. All this was intended not only to create decent housing for our people, but also employment for our young people. The other issue was universal health coverage. We have talked about it in this house. NHIF reduced from 6,500 per family to now 375. 100,000 universal health health workers employed. This all, if you look at it, will reduce the cost of living for the people of this country. Hustler Fund, very encouraging, 73%.
You spoke very well, actually, you have concluded very well. The Honorable Zahir Janda, member for Nyarimbari Church. The Honorable Zahir Janda, member for Nyarimbari Church.
Thank you.
You are disturbing the Honorable Jared Okello. You know, I observed you. You crossed the floor. And I decided to leave it out because I didn't want to interfere with a member who was on his feet. So I want to encourage you, please take your seat and give an opportunity to the Honorable Zahir Janda, member for Nyaribari Church, to be heard in silence.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise to support the President's speech because the President undertook to ensure urgent transformation of our economy when he assumed office last year. And Madam Speaker, we can see there is progress that has been made so far in enhancing food production, creating employment, and taming inequality. Madam Speaker, we have been seeing a lot of progress. In fact, there's the construction of 400 markets, the whole country, complete with water, electricity, and other amenities across the nation. For example, Madam Speaker, in my constituency, we have 3 new markets coming up, Keumbu, Birongo, and Amariba, which is a very great progress. Madam Speaker, I come from Nyanza. The government